The restaurants you love, the food you crave, and the people that make it all happen. We tell their stories on the Paper Trails podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Season 3, Episode 1 of the Paper Trails podcast. I'm your host, Nick Caligari-Mitros, and man, it's been a minute, okay? It's been a couple of years, a little bit of a hiatus. We did some short-form content, and that was wonderful. We loved it. We are officially through COVID, and you know what? Paper Trails is back. I'm really excited. We are, just so you guys know, here with executive chef Mike Bobb, longtime friend and actually client, of ours. But we are at the Ballantyne Hotel, absolutely stunning. Obviously here, in the Ballantyne area of North Carolina. And so we're very, very excited to come, share, find out more about, chef's background and what he's accomplished over the last number of years. And so, Mike, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks Nick for having me.
For coming on. So yeah, let's do this. Let's get a little background on how you ended up here, how, executive chef, maybe where you're from. Let's start there. Your interest in food, how that kind of panned out, and then we'll kind of go with the flow and see how you ended up here at the hotel.
Yeah. So originally from St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
Born and raised there. I grew up in the Boy Scouts.
Okay.
Did a lot of camping outdoors, a lot of cooking outdoors, a lot of playing with fire. As a kid, loved to play with fire.
Okay.
My dad would always cook on the campfire, right?
Okay.
He'd always do some really creative things.
Was he the main cook of the family, or was mom still the main cook, but he loved that kind of
Mom at
grilling
home, dad when we were camping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when dad can get really creative, and everybody kind of had to eat whatever he made no matter what.
Okay.
Right?
Any favorite dishes that he made, or anything that
The chili and cornbread is by far the best,
cornbread.
yeah.
Okay.
And then he'd make some really good cobblers as well.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds good. I like that.
Yeah, just seeing him be creative, just really sparked an interest in me.
Okay.
And just thinking wow, you can be so creative with food on an outdoor fire. What can you do in an actual kitchen?
And he had no background in
No.
culinary food. Any of your family? Grandparent and anybody or no?
No, so my mom's actually a cafeteria manager
Okay.
For a school district.
Okay.
She's been working in food establishments, most of her life.
Okay.
So it's it's in my blood.
Okay. I love it.
She was a manager for Taco Bell, so
Okay.
I hate to say it, Taco Bell is actually in my blood.
Okay.
So it's
Love
kind of
it.
like my, want to sit at home and kind of indulge kind of food. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Not shy to say that.
Favorite food at Taco Bell is what? What's your go-to?
The cheesy gordita crunch.
Cheesy gordita crunch.
Yeah.
I love that. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So food is in your blood. Okay. Outdoors, camping, Boy Scouts. That kind of started your interest in food, and so you knew kind of early, if you had to guess, you were I would love to do this, as a job, as a career.
Yeah, I would say once I got in high school, I kind of had an idea that's kind of the direction I wanted to go in.
Okay.
Just like every young teen, I wanted to be a baseball player.
Okay. Who's your favorite player growing up? Who did you kind of look?
Oh, Pujols.
Pujols. Okay.
Yeah, Albert Pujols.
He was in. So was he St. Louis?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
he just
right.
retired last year.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say about the year that I didn't make the baseball team was the year I was like, okay. I guess I need to be a chef. Yeah. That was the defining moment.
Okay.
It's just meant to be. I guess.
love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you finished high school and then you went to culinary school, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Went to Johnson & Wales in Charlotte.
Okay. Now, did you know why Charlotte? Why did you know Johnson & Wales? Had you heard of it? Did you have an interest coming to the East Coast? How did that thought process come to even coming here?
I think I had a counselor actually give me a couple of schools.
Okay.
And I think just by looking through them, one said North Carolina, and I was like, that's the one. Had some family out in Raleigh at the time.
Okay.
They're still out there. So I was like, you know what, I'll be close to the family still and kind of far away from family. So.
Had you ever come to Charlotte before, making that decision?
No.
That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So culinary school, Johnson & Wales. What was that experience like? Just culinary school, for somebody listening that has never been or thought of, or maybe is thinking about maybe going to culinary school and they're watching this, what was your experience like? How was it? Was there a lot of training? Was there a lot? Give me some insight on how that panned out.
It was fantastic. I had a little bit of cooking background before going into school.
Okay.
So it kind of helped enhance everything I did know, and allowed me to kind of really dig in deep and understand a lot more than I thought I was actually going to understand.
Okay.
So if there would be one thing I could suggest to people is try to get a little bit of experience before going to school.
So like a local restaurant, family, I mean, what we know, anything you would suggest?
Yeah, just a small little restaurant, just something to kind of get their foot in the door, even if they're just a dishwasher, something like that. Just kind of know the environment, kind of know. The last thing they want to do is, go to school to learn this and then get an environment and not realize that it's not what I signed up for.
Nice. Okay. So you'd suggest kind of starting locally, kind of get some experience, prepping food, kind of get your feet underneath you before you went and kind of sharpen the skills a little bit?
Yeah, or even like volunteer at like a soup kitchen.
I love that.
Yeah, just kind of like, see some of the things that go on and yeah.
Okay. All right. So what else? Did culinary school just fine tune what you already knew? Like, did you understand like knife skill? I mean, what are some big takeaways from culinary school?
That there's a lot to know. That I would say in every chef's career, you're never going to learn everything.
Yeah. Okay.
That's probably what I understood the most, which is good because it gave me the confidence to be able to go out and know that I don't need to know everything.
Yeah.
As long as I'm willing to continuously to learn and to develop my skill, that's what I need to be successful.
I think that's so interesting you say that, Mike, because I feel like a lot of times when people start a career or a job or a new venture, they think they have to know absolutely everything. And it's like, you're not.
Yeah.
Like you really won't. Like a lot of it, they say success is kind of the journey, not the destination. A lot of it's the journey. Like you will learn styles of food and you'll work under people as, sous chefs or, like different positions in the kitchen. You may work at a bar, you may not, Like there's so much to learn that, I think not being nervous or scared about entering a field that you're kind of, hey, like I've been in IT my whole life, but I'm really not loving it. I'd love to get into X. Okay, just start, just go. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Does that kind of ring true to maybe your experience or,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just like in life, man, you got to make a lot of failures to make successes, So just kind of goes in that direction.
Okay.
It's funny, too, because when I was in school, like, I always looked at the instructors, and I'm like, how do they know all of this stuff? Like, they know everything. Yeah. And then I get out of school, and I realize maybe they didn't know everything. Maybe they just knew everything about what they were teaching.
Yeah. Okay. Now, is there a certain style of food or any restaurants you get worked at that you kind of like, some people say like they're, like I've got customers and friends of mine that are into desserts or French cuisine or, kind of specialties. Do you learn everything at culinary school or do you learn a little bit of it? I mean, how does that happen? Is that just, certain culinary schools focus on, I don't know, French comes to mind, but how does that operate? Or do you pick, or does it depend on where you work after and kind of what their focus is?
Yeah, so you learn a lot of the basics, which all the basics to the culinary industry come from French cuisine.
Okay.
So a lot of, understanding of that stuff, a lot of the terminologies, the biggest things like stock soups and sauces, mother sauces, learn how to do your different types of cooking methods, braising, frying, roasting, searing. Your freshman year, that's kind of the biggest basis of everything.
Okay.
And then they kind of go into more of, your intricate, areas, international cuisines, garde manger, traditional European cuisine, things like that, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I like that. All right, so you finished culinary school. That's an experience. You're learning. You're developing your skill set. Okay, that's going. Now, are you working at a restaurant, or do they make you? Is there like internships? I mean, how does that work? Is there anything like that?
So my sophomore year, I had to do an internship.
Okay.
I did it at the Charlotte City Club in Uptown.
Okay.
And at that time in my life, I realized I needed a job.
Okay.
College student, living in an apartment now, like
of course.
I got to pay rent. You gotta, there's things you want to buy and things like that. So actually, when I started my internship, I actually started working in the gallery restaurant at this hotel at the same exact time.
Okay.
So I was essentially working 2 full-time jobs at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
At the gallery here?
Yes.
Okay. So you're interning and you're working here?
Yes.
Okay. And did you know of the Ballantyne Hotel, or just they were looking for a job? I mean, how did that even happen?
So my girlfriend at the time, which is my fiance right now,
Okay.
She was actually doing her internship here.
Okay.
And she just so happened to be in HR for a day, and she was like, hey, they're looking for a cook.
Okay.
Because she knew I needed a job.
Yeah.
And she told me, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, like.
Let's do it.
Give him my resume. So she literally gave my resume to the chef.
Okay.
And I came in, did an interview, and I did my interview, and the chef was like, when can you go back and do a cook test?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can do it right now. I have my stuff in the truck.
Just as a line cook, you had to, I mean.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Looking back, that's what the chef said made him hire me. It wasn't my cook test. It was the fact that I was ready to go right then and there.
Man, I like that. There's a, I don't know, I think maybe a lesson there, like of just always being prepared, always being ready, right?
Yeah.
Is that something now that you're in leadership that maybe you look for in somebody that, maybe is ready to take on a role or responsibility that maybe they aren't 100% sure about, but they're willing to do it? Is that something that you think might help somebody?
Yeah, that's a great attribute. Yeah, always be prepared.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so you're working here. So 2 full-time jobs, and you're going to school?
Yeah. Well, the internship was
the school. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so
but once that was over, then I was doing full school and full-time job here.
Okay, so let's talk about working the internship and here. What are some things off the bat, that you're learning? Like, is it, just, is it fine dining, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay, so is this your first kind of fine dining experience?
Yeah, very first.
So give us, I mean, I don't know, the cheesy gordita crunch is a little different than, the gallery. So just give it, I mean, what are some things off the bat that you're just like, okay, this is another level, or this is a different way of doing, anything that stands out to you from either the internship or working here at the first job that you're just like, man, like I didn't understand the levels of this, or, I don't know, like, give me some feedback there.
Yeah, I'd probably say the first time the chef looked at me and said, "You're not serving that." And I was like, "What? Like, you're not serving that? Like, that's not the way it's supposed to be done." And I was like, "Whoa, oh, okay." Like,
so he wasn't playing, yeah.
No, yeah.
So just the abruptness and just the level of perfection, maybe.
Yeah, the fine detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a shock. That was like a, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other shock I had was I was being trained by somebody for like 2 days, and then I looked at him. I was like, "So you're working with me tomorrow?" I was like, "No, dude, you're on the station by yourself." I was like, "What? I can work
2
by
days
myself? Like, oh my gosh, like this is gonna be crazy."
Were you? I mean, I bet you had to been nervous that.
Oh, I
third
was so
day.
nervous. Yeah.
What station was it? Do you remember?
It was a pantry station. I was just making salads. Yeah.
But you were like, "There's no way I'm doing this."
Yeah. Looking back, I'm like, wow. Like, I had like 3 salads to make the entire service, and I was afraid I wasn't gonna be able to keep up with it. Like,
isn't that so funny, Mike? That like the longer we do something, just naturally, the more confidence you build in that area. You know what I mean? Like, just, I don't know, like, isn't that so, now looking back, you're like, well, but at the time, it was like earth shattering, right? It's like,
yeah.
You're like, you're what? Like, we're no, man, you got this. Like, you're okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's an interesting idea or concept, isn't it?
It really is.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So, internship, first job here. Okay. Then you're finishing culinary school,
Yes.
right? And then, where does life take you?
On a roller coaster at that point. Finish school, and then you just go through life.
Yep.
I'm starting to become an adult.
Yep.
Living on my own in a city that I don't have any ties here. I don't have any family.
That is true. Yeah.
And you kind of start to have friends and
Yep.
develop friendships, different relationships. You feel like you're a family where you're working at as well.
Yep.
So I worked in the restaurant for about 5 years.
Okay.
I learned
Here?
Yes.
At this restaurant. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Learned
right.
so much along the way.
And is that from just relationships that you'd built along working through school, and they liked you, and they just said, you know what, now that you graduated, you're here full time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I saw the chefs, and they were like super creative, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I got to keep learning as much as I can from them.
Yeah.
And I just continued to learn and learn and learn, and I finally got to a point where I was like, I've got to do something different. I've got to venture out a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, start learning other things, or just I really needed to take the step off the ledge,
Yeah.
you know, and kind of jump into a management role. So I did. I left. I went to the Whitewater Center.
Okay.
I was a sous chef out there.
Okay.
And I stepped off the ledge, and I tell you what, I fell.
Okay.
I fell right into a crazy business.
Let's talk about it. How was it? Why was it crazy? Were you not ready? Were you ready? Give us let's learn from this experience. Maybe if another person feels like that, they know they need to make the step. It's the most uneasy thing ever to do. We can tell you to do it,
Yeah.
but until you actually do it, it really means nothing, right? Talk about that. Talk about how that was, what you learned from it. You know, how did you fall? How did you get back up? Give us some perspective on that.
So I went from fine dining food to what would be kind of fast casual, quick service food.
Sure. Yeah.
And going into that environment from primarily a fine dining background, I was like, okay, how can we finesse this stuff? How can we finesse? And I realized this isn't the clientele.
Different model.
Yeah. And at that point, I was like, man, I don't know if this is for me.
Okay.
You know, because I was so used to
A certain thing.
fine dining, the finesse, the detail, things like that.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't the clientele. So I had to adapt to the clientele.
Okay. Was that hard?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because, internally it's like, I don't want to do this. Why? I don't want to cook all these chicken tenders and hamburgers and fries and
I totally get that. And you know what? That may be something that, if you're listening to this, or watching this on, on YouTube or, wherever platform you're getting this, is that, there is a, in your mind, because you've done it a certain way, you're like, this is wrong. Like this isn't even right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, no, it's like just this model is way different than this model over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay.
I felt like that stuck-up kid who was like, you're doing it wrong. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Everything I knew was right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But just in life, man, you got to make the most of everything you have.
Totally agree.
I was like, I got to learn something from this place, right? I can't just come here and think, this isn't for me, and then leave, right?
Yeah. It's a great attitude, by the way.
So I learned how to work in a large-scale business. We were serving thousands of people there in
Wow.
a single day. There was one day I was working in the restaurant. It was like we served almost 2,000 people
Wow.
in just the restaurant.
That's big numbers.
Yeah, and I was like, man, this is crazy. I got to figure out how they do the ordering for all this food. I got to figure out how we're scheduling for all this stuff.
Stocking it, bringing
yeah.
trucks in, everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or how are we keeping up with all the prep? How's all this happening? And we're able to serve all these people. Well, yeah, it may not be the fanciest of food, but
Sure.
There's still an element of skill here that
Yeah.
I can learn.
Exactly.
And that's what I did. I was like, I got to learn that.
That's a really good point, Mike, because I feel like it's really easy to just, hey, I have this new job, and let me complain about it and
Yeah.
not take anything from it, and just, like you said, kind of like look down or badmouth this situation or this business model, or Taco Bell doesn't know what they're doing, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, but you know what? Listen, every business is different. The way you operate is different. The things you can learn anything. You can learn anything from anybody.
Yeah.
Right? That's a really good, which I would just recommend to everybody, just really think about, if you're not happy in your situation, what can you take from the situation? What are some good things that you can start, thinking about learning from? But that's a really good thing to think about, that I think anybody, no matter what your background, even if you're not in food, you can take away from that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you're learning a whole nother, a whole other industry, ordering all that. 2,000 people is a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
In a day.
Yeah.
That is volume.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So
crazy.
you were there, and then from there, you come back here?
Yeah. So I stuck it out there for about a year.
Okay.
It was actually during the amoeba time, so it was like a perfect opportunity to kind of, say this is probably my exit.
Okay.
So I actually got my foot back in the door here. I came back as like a junior banquet sous chef,
Okay.
Which is great because at that point I wanted to learn some more of like the banquet catering side of the industry.
Okay.
I've been in the restaurant, fine dining, been in a restaurant that does a large scale.
Sure.
Now I need to learn some of the other parts of the industry.
Yeah, love it.
Came back to the hotel. I was a junior banquet sous chef for maybe a few months,
Okay.
and got a good feel of the banquets, and it was like understanding like, okay, this isn't anything different. Like it's just a little more of the numbers.
Yeah.
Like it's the same. It's the
Concept.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it's different in the aspect of numbers, and how do you make this amount of food for this many people with very limited waste.
Yeah.
And same with like the ordering and stuff like that.
Interesting. Okay.
And then through just some experiences here in the hotel, there were some management changes, some opportunities opened up.
Yep.
A position opened up that I don't think I was even ready for it.
Okay.
Looking back, I definitely wasn't ready for it.
Okay.
But I took the jump, and I became the executive sous chef. And then I was the executive sous chef for about 5 years.
Now, for people that may not know, maybe give us a little context as what does that mean? Executive sous chef versus executive chef. For people that are watching this that don't know, what are some differences?
Yeah, so executive sous chef is essentially you have just about all the same responsibilities as the executive chef, but you're their second-hand person.
Okay.
You're their general, essentially.
Okay.
You're overseeing a lot of all of the operations of the kitchen.
Okay.
Maybe not so much of like the numbers and like the administrative stuff, but kind of more the operational.
Okay.
Yeah. Working with all the individual leaders for each department.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are some departments? Like what, give us.
So here we got 4 different departments in
Okay.
our culinary.
Okay.
So we have the restaurant, stewarding, pastry, and then banquets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you step into an executive sous chef, and you said you weren't 100% ready, but you took
Yeah.
it on. What are some things that you learned? Like anything like?
How to manage different people.
Okay.
Yeah. How to be a better, leader for them, be a better manager for them, how to better support them.
Yeah.
And I feel like those are very big attributes for a successful chef.
Sure. Love that. Okay. All right. So then you said you did that for 5 years.
Yeah.
All right. And then how do we get the nod for the executive chef? Was that because it's as of recent?
Yeah.
Okay. So give us some context. How did that play out?
So I would say probably the last few years as the executive sous chef, like people are always telling me you should be the executive chef. You should be the executive chef. Like you're ready for it. You're ready for it. And I was like, I don't know. Like that's a it's a big role. And
Yeah.
In my lifespan, I've seen so many different executive chefs. So I'm looking at this position now as somebody that's not long term.
Yeah.
And thinking, okay, I'm going to be next. Like I don't want to be next. Like don't put me in that spot.
Yeah.
But I just dug deep and realized, what, this is me.
You got it.
Yeah. I didn't do all of this hard work for nothing.
Yeah.
I feel like I can be the leader that my staff needs.
Love it.
For definitely the times we're in right now.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been in this role for a little bit.
June, 2 months now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's it been so far?
It's been crazy. Yeah. I had this master plan going into it.
Okay.
Nothing's worked out the right way. Yeah.
Which happens.
Yeah.
I mean that you may have a master plan for going to college and getting this degree and you work in this, but then you graduate and you get your first job over here, but you end up loving it, and then is that so? Like that happens.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. Like that's a normal thing. You don't things may not play out exactly how you think they will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think being okay with that is fine, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that. Okay. So executive chef, you're learning a lot, master plan, but you're making adjustments, you're bobbing and weaving. No pun intended. That was pretty good. But okay, let's talk a little bit about the hotel as we wrap up. Absolutely gorgeous facility.
Yes.
Give people some context. Maybe we could put some B-roll in here. Give us a little bit about the hotel, the facility, the size. I know you guys are making changes, a lot of changes. and you've had over the last, 6, 12, 18 months, I don't know exactly, but give us an idea of where you guys are and where you guys are heading.
Yeah, so the hotel was built in 2011. 2001.
2001, okay.
Actually, right when 9/11 happened.
Okay.
So the hotel's gone through a bit of a, growing season as well.
Sure.
Coming out of that. A few years back, we were actually purchased by Northwood Hospitality, the investment company.
Okay.
That has multiple different sectors in their portfolio.
Okay.
They own different hotels across the states, and they came in and they were like, let's do renovation.
Okay.
But a $12 million renovation.
$12 million?
Yeah. This room right here would have been just pretty plain, honestly, before what they did.
Okay.
And what they did, honestly, it looks beautiful, the entire hotel, even outside.
Yeah, outside, give us some context about you guys used to have a golf course, correct?
Yes, we used to have a golf course out there.
That's no more?
Yep, as of 2 years ago, it was gone.
Okay.
And they're actually developing out here right now.
Okay, and it's replaced with what? Give us...
So right off the jump right out here, where hole 18 was, there's a stream park.
Okay.
So there's a little area for people to go and lounge and relax and chill. There's a little pond out there. People can kind of sit and look at the water fountain. Yep. And then across the stream is where all the big stuff's happening.
Okay.
A lot of development going on over there, so there's a lot of sky high res that's going to go in. Retail space, restaurants.
Wow.
O&B Brewery is actually they're the fastest growing building over there.
Wow.
It's like every day I come in and it's like, oh my God, like how did they complete all of that in one day?
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially this whole area is going to turn into like South End area.
Nice.
Where there's just all kinds of different things you can do.
So a good little hangout spot,
Yeah.
walking around, perfect date night, just stores, retail, food options.
Yeah.
It's beautiful now. I can't imagine when it's going to get finished,
Yes.
the look of it, the feel of it. So okay, so you got bought out, huge renovation budget. You guys are, obviously you guys have, it's a hotel obviously, and you guys have banquets and all that, right?
Yes.
So I think you had told me, was it 40,000 square feet? Is kind of
Yeah.
total numbers?
Yeah, so we just opened up the event lawn outside not too long ago. So about 40,000 square feet total.
Love that. Love that. Spa here as well.
Yep, spa,
Right?
indoor, outdoor pool.
The whole thing.
Yeah. You got
Love
the
it.
restaurant, 2 bars.
Okay. And as an executive chef, you kind of oversee all that? Is that
Yes.
how it works? Okay.
Yeah. All of the food I oversee.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Awesome. All right. So let's kind of wrap up, Mike. What are some kind of parting thoughts or tips, or anybody that you'd like to give some some inspiration to that would like to get into the space or would like to be an executive chef? What are some encouraging words or kind of last minute thoughts for them about anything, succeeding, climbing the ranks, learning, not taking no for an answer, something that you've learned that we can kind of, pass that on to the next person?
I'd say that probably the biggest thing is don't stop learning. Never stop learning. Yeah. Don't ever feel like you know it all, because you're never going to understand everything. You're never going to know it all. And be transparent about it. Whether it's with your staff, whether it's with your friends, your family, always let them know what you don't know. Because when you start telling people what you don't know, they can teach you things. And that's how you grow and develop yourself even more.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think you're able to gain trust when, I think as a leader sometimes when you tell somebody, hey, follow me, the idea is they know everything, but when you tell them, hey, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I need your help, which is why I think when you assemble a team, you need to have like every different type of person. Not everyone just like you, because
Yeah.
I need your strength, and I need your strength, and I need what you're good at, and I'm not a detail person, so I need you to help me with those details, because I'm not good at that, but I'm good at this.
Yes.
I can cast a vision. Well, this sous chef is the creative one. He's the one that has, I need you for this role. You know what I mean? And so I think when you're open and honest and tell people about shortcomings, it's fine.
Yeah.
Everybody knows we have shortcomings. It's like, but I don't know. There's like a sense of, I don't tell people what I'm not good at, and I'm like, why? It's okay. Like, it's not a big deal. You actually gain more trust like that, in my opinion.
Yeah. For all you know, you could be talking to the expert in what you don't know.
Dang.
And they could be like, well, guess what? I'm the expert in that. Like, let me teach you something.
That's a great perspective,
Yeah.
actually. That's a great perspective. Awesome. Man, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks
absolutely. Thank you.
for coming hanging out with us on the Paper Trails podcast. I appreciate you guys for logging in and tuning in with us wherever you're watching, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Subscribe, like, share. If you want to see more of this content, do it. We are super pumped for season 3.
The restaurants you love, the food you crave, and the people that make it all happen. We tell their stories on the Paper Trails podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.